Hey everyone, it's Strange Michael. I hope you're doing well today, and as you can tell from my review, I ended up not making Halloween 25 Years of Terror, the first review I did now that I'm back on the channel. But I'm sorry I've been gone. I explained a lot of that, how I was sick and what I had, what I've been doing in the meantime over the last month and a half since I put up a video in the recent Hall movie video, if you want to check that out. Anyway, I have a show here to talk about that is very much tied to my childhood in a lot of ways. I've wanted to see the whole series for a long time, and this year, many of you know, I was working through my backlog of movies that have been sitting on my shelves for a long time. Up to 10 years, even longer than that sometimes. Shows, movies, all of that. Horror, non-horror, too much. I wanted to make that my goal this year. I got halfway through the stack, so there's a lot of other stuff. And I've bought stuff. I've received gifts for my birthday and whatever. And even Christmas last year, stuff that I haven't gotten to yet. But this is a show that I really wanted to talk about, and I was going to make it a priority in October to watch it. I wanted to have this review out to you a while ago, a week or so ago. But I've been working on a comic book channel instead. Now I'm back, I can finally talk about this. This little show here came out in 1999. It ran from one season into the year 2000. Then it made it 40 episodes before it was canceled, which to me, watching this now, it's kind of a shame. I feel like it could have gotten better and better, but 40 episodes is a lot, man. It really is, for fully animated and everything. This little cartoon series, and yeah, I cover cartoons sometimes, even though I have a horror channel. It's called Archie's Weird Mysteries. Now, interestingly enough, there's a YouTube channel that I love quite a bit. A guy named Fabio has a channel called Italian Stallion 51. And interestingly enough, I think he just reviewed this, if I remember correctly, which was wild, because even when I talked about the VHS tape of 4 or 5 episodes on my Goosebumps channel, called Michael Goosebumps Fan for anybody who doesn't know, I talked about this years ago and how I watched this tape most of my life, at least 16 out of my 30 years now, because I had a birthday last week. I'm 30 years old. I feel old as shit now. This tape has been put in my VCR, the same one I've had my whole life, because VCRs are a blast. I've watched this almost every year, most of the time, and I love it. I think it's great. There's a killer potato episode, my personal probably favorite episode, and then there's a vampire storyline that's 3 or 4 episodes on this tape, and it's great. And watching this so many times, I always wanted to see the full series and wonder if it was any good. And here we are, Mill Creek Entertainment, a few years back, maybe 10 years ago, put out this set. I don't think it'll ever see the light of day for Blu-ray, but I don't think it really deserves that either, to be honest with you. This is something that really interested me, that I've always wanted to see, like I said. 40 episodes of this. I love pulpy horror, and this is very heavily referencing a lot of B-movie horror tropes and sci-fi tropes especially, because most of the time they're going to be alien stories. Just to give you a heads up, if you love alien cartoons and stories, this is covered in that. But I like the other stuff they did, like the killer potato story, which is great. I'll talk more about that later. The vampire story, I think, is actually, to me, someone who's very picky about vampire stories and doesn't enjoy the majority of their tales in movies, books, TV shows. I love what they did with vampires here. I really did. I thought it'd be cool to adapt that to either a season of that awful show Riverdale, which is the only thing otherwise of Archie that I've ever watched or read or anything. Riverdale's awful. I watched one season of it, the first season, and I hated that shit. It was so bad. The resolution of the murder mystery they did by the end of it was so CW and so terribly executed. And usually CW has a first good season and then it collapses. Off and on. Every other season is usually shit and good on CW back in the day. And that was during the Arrow and Flashverse stuff, so it's kind of wild. Archie's Weird Mysteries, when I was growing up, I loved that VHS tape, but it felt like a knockoff Scooby-Doo, and it actually turns out Archie's comics, which it's based on, is a year older than Scooby-Doo. I didn't know that. That's pretty crazy to me. Both involve a gang of kids who are best friends going out and resolving mysteries. This one stays in a small town called Riverdale, where the kids live. You have Archie, our red-headed fellow right here, who oddly enough is not even wearing his outfit that he wears. He usually wears a brown leather jacket on top of a black shirt, like this picture here. I'll just show you this. You have his best friend named Jughead, who's kind of the Shaggy of the group. I love Jughead, easily my favorite character of the whole series, and franchise for that matter. He is a dude who wears this goofy papier-mâché hat on his head who loves cheeseburgers. And I can get behind a man and vote for a man who loves cheeseburgers. Oddly enough, I have something weird to tell you here. You know how you have the weirdos like weeaboos who watch things like anime? I guess that's where the term weeaboo comes from anyway. Who watch that and they like think chicks are hot in the shows and stuff, and they're cartoons that don't exist. You know, they're not even real women. This show did some kind of effect to me. At this point, I am such a fat dude on the outside and in my heart, in my fat glazed heart, that the cheeseburgers in this show, that the local diner, Pop's Diner I think is what it's called, that they go to all the time, those burgers look banging. I don't know what it is about them. They're literally cartoon cheeseburgers. I don't know if it's the dieting I'm doing or what, but holy shit, those burgers look great. I don't know. It's like they take a slice of cheese and like split it in half and lay it like in a cross on top of the pan. What the hell? Why am I talking about cartoon cheeseburgers? I don't know what it was. Makes me hungry thinking about it. Anyway, loved those, my weeaboo obsession for those cheeseburgers. Anyway, Jughead is awesome. I really love him. He's super funny. He's just a dude who loves horror movies. The Killer Potato episode I talked about is literally just about him wanting to sit and watch horror movies all day on a TV. Sounds a lot like yours truly. You know, monster movies and everything. And he loves his cheeseburgers, and that's really all that matters to me in life, aside from my wife and God and my family, and I love burgers, man. I hope we crossed a new boundary in my YouTube relationship with you. Anyway, getting on to the other two, you have the two girls here. You have Betty, who's kind of the sweet cheerleader type, and then you have Veronica, who is a rich girl who is also in the friend group. She's kind of stuck up a little bit, but both have a love triangle with Archie. They both love him. They both basically alternate on going on dates with him, but neither are really officially with him. They have their little friend group. Nobody has a crush on Jughead, but Betty and Veronica are really fun, and I like how they're written on this show. Archie's just a dude who loves his mystery columns that he writes for school newspaper and everything, and even I think local paper at one point. But he just gets involved in mysteries. He always has an interest in strange things that happen around Riverdale, the town that they live in. And I just love the idea of the concept of the show. It is very Scooby-Doo, and that's what always hit me with this show. But oddly enough, did you know this is not the first Archie Comics cartoon? I didn't know that. I didn't know there's been like shows and live action shows and cartoons since like the 60s. That's insane to me, you know? I really enjoyed this. Apparently this also spun off into its own little comic magazine thing. I think it was called like Archie's Weird Magazine or something. I don't know. But that's what I heard. It could be wrong, it could be right. Who cares? Anyway, a lot of the stories are alien-centric. Like I said, I'm not a big fan of alien tales. A lot of the B-movie rifting they're doing riffing? Is it rifting or riffing? I think it's riffing. Like riff tracks, you know? Anyway, I'm very ADD, distracted today. I don't know. Basically, they do riffs on things like the 50-Foot Woman, which is an old horror movie about a woman growing to 50 feet tall, destroying a lot of stuff around her. I've never seen the movie. I know the general gist. They have a story about Veronica, the rich chick, turning into that. They have a story in here about... they have a mummy story, which I thought was actually good. They have a Christmas episode in here about a phantom that I thought was pretty good. The Killer Potato episode being my favorite, the vampire storyline thing for 3 or 4 episodes, all of that stuff really stood out to me as probably the best of the show. And the show even tries to teach a lesson here and there, you know? But then you have other things that riffs off that I thought were really cool. There's one about, it's kind of a Blob knockoff, like The Blob, those 2 movies with Steve McQueen, then the remake from the 80s with, is it Kevin Dillon? Is that Matt Dillon's brother's name? I think it was. Those were great. I really enjoyed all of that. They have a Christine knockoff episode where Archie's car, which is beautiful by the way, how the hell did he afford that? As a teenager still in school who doesn't really work a job. You have like that episode about the car coming to life and trying to kill everybody that Archie's into. That's cool. You know, I really liked that episode a lot. That was a really fun watch. There was one about a VR video game thing where it was like the entities in the video game come to our reality, or Archie's reality, and try to kill everybody in the town. That sounds a little too close to like a sci-fi alien story, but it was cool, and the idea explaining those things was kind of neat. I dug that. I actually would think that'd be a cool season of like an Archie live action thing. Again, not the shitty Riverdale show, but like a different thing would be cool to see that adapted with. I love the animation style. I always remember watching this VHS tape, even this year, the editing on it is not very smooth. It feels like they're chopping things out, mixing things together a little too much. I never felt that with this show. It doesn't feel like that, even though the budget is not great. Some of the animations and transitions and stuff are not perfectly animated. They're not very smooth, but it felt smoother than that VHS tape. It's not a quality thing based on media format. It's just something different. I don't know. Something happened with that VHS tape when they put it out back in the day. But, you know, it is what it is. But I like the monster stories. This is kind of like, this was probably trying to cash in on Goosebumps' popularity, if I had to be honest with you. At the time, even though Goosebumps show was like, what? 96, I think, is when that started. I know the book started in like 92, but wasn't the series kicking in like 95, 96, if I remember correctly? But I feel like this was trying to cash in on the popularity of that. It must have not done very well since it only got one season, but 40 episodes animated in a year to pop out for that show, that's pretty wild, man. That's a lot of work. So, one thing I really hate about this DVD set, Mill Creek Entertainment is so bad about this. I have a lot of their box sets, and I love Mill Creek Entertainment for the stuff they put out, because when I bought this, I also bought Sherlock Holmes in the 21st century, 22nd century, whatever. It was a futuristic Sherlock Holmes cartoon, and I loved it. I watched that and this quite often. Mainly the Sherlock show on TV. This I never saw on TV, just the VHS tape I owned. But I've noticed that not only are the episodes out of order on this set, thank you Fabio, Italian Stallion 51, for telling me that in your video, but I noticed that it feels like you can't even skip chapters. Like, the beginning of every episode, if you click on a DVD on the menu, or if you put the DVD in the player, you click on the menu, and you click on an episode, you're going to get this really obnoxious, and I understand why this was there, it was filler, this little advertisement telling you what this episode of Archie's Weird Mysteries is going to be about. Then you get the intro that, God almighty, is like 2 minutes long, of all of these compilations of things that are going to happen in this show. The theme song sounds so different from what the old VHS tape I showed you had on it. I do not like the theme song most of the time for this show. It's not bad if you're a kid, but as an adult, it got old and repetitive. You couldn't just hit like a skip chapter scene and actually start the episode where the cartoon starts. No. It'll go halfway through the episode for you. Yeah. Oddly enough, this is another thing to complain about too. This box set has a few episodes included on every DVD, and when you finish all the Archie episodes, if you hit the play all button, it'll start showing you episodes of a Sabrina cartoon, Sabrina the Teenage Witch, who was also tied to Archie Comics back in the day. It'll show you episodes from that cartoon that I loved growing up. The theme song of that show, I don't remember it being that when I was a kid. It is horrendous. It is horrendous. I hate that shit. It was awful. I used to like literally turn my Xbox One off every time that shit came on during these DVDs. It took me a long time to work through this show, man. Because there's like 3.5 hours to almost 4 hours of content per disc for these episodes. It felt like it took forever to get through this show. Not only because it's a formulaic show like a lot of cartoons obviously are. This is better if you're a kid watching it all the way through. But it's the repetitive alien shit that's always happening on the show. But you have other stuff, like I think there was a werewolf episode that I really liked. Some of the worst episodes involved this one guy. I cannot remember his name, but he's like the lead athlete in the school. He looks like my childhood best friend a little bit. TC, if you're watching this, God bless you, man. I love you. He looks a lot like my childhood best friend, and he's supposed to be dumb and goofy in this show. But there's one particular episode that may be the worst one for me, aside from fucking a shrinking person story, by the way. I hate that shit. I hate it in Goosebumps. I hate it in probably Scooby-Doo if it exists in there. I'm sure it does. It's been around for decades, so I'm sure Scooby-Doo has done a shrinking person fighting off bugs story or some shit, just like this show did. That's probably my worst episode. But the next worst episode is the one about the jock kid from the school becoming smart by using a machine by another character who was way more of a dick on this box set than he was in this old show, named Dilton, who's kind of the school genius kid. Dilton invented like a helmet that would make you smart. It would increase some kind of parts of the brain activity in your head. And that jock kept sneaking in and using it without anybody knowing. Then they figured out he's becoming way smarter. He starts losing his hair, and his head starts getting bigger. It's a bad episode, man. A really bad episode. There's like a Valentine's Day episode in here, too, I liked. There was episodes about, like, salt that can make people fall in love with, I think, Veronica, if I remember correctly. There's a couple of episodes about people using, like, love potions, I believe. Why? Even in the 90s, that was getting old for TV shows and stuff, and they still did it here. So, at the end of the day, I don't really think I have anything else to say about the show. It's not great. The music is cool. I actually like the episode music. I just don't like the theme song on this DVD. Again, the theme song was good on this VHS tape, and that's it for me. But on this DVD set, no. I don't know if they remastered it, if they did something different, if the VHS tape had something different, which I'm convinced the editing is so different on there, it was different. But I didn't hate the show. I actually thought it was pretty cool. I do recommend it if you like anthology horror, especially with cartoons like Scooby-Doo and stuff. This was interesting. I don't think I mentioned this in this recording. I reviewed this a couple of times trying to get the video the way I want it to be. But I loved, in case I haven't mentioned this yet, the voice cast for this show. I think everybody was perfectly cast. I don't care if we're talking about Dilton or Reggie, this other character that was not a douchebag on that VHS tape I showed you. Reggie always struck me as kind of a cool counterpart to the group. And in this show, he's like a dick. He's a total scumbag. I can't stand Reggie when he's on the show. I never grew up hating Reggie's guts until now, and I can't stand that character. It's going to tamper with every October when I watch that VHS tape again because of this. But I don't care if we're talking about Reggie or Dilton, the nerd character, or the jockey kid, or if we're talking about the main cast, especially Archie. Remember once upon a time that we used to cast people who felt like the voices fit the way a character was drawn. The art style looks like it's right out of the comics. It really does, and I love that about this show. But the voices are so perfect. Veronica sounds snooty. I like how that voice actress is great, by the way. Really great voice, a very sexy voice. The chick playing Betty does an incredible job. The guy playing Jughead is so memorable and iconic. It's a very nasally voice. I would never, this is the Kevin Conroy thing. Like, I will never be able to read an Archie comic. If I ever do, I probably won't. But if I ever did, that would be the voice I would always hear. That and the kid playing Archie. Dude, they are both fantastic. And these are young adult voices for, teenagers, and they sound great, I really enjoyed Archie's Weird Mysteries. I'm glad I finally finished watching the show because now I can kind of get it out of the way. I can go back to watching Tales from the Dark Side, which I've been working through, and Married with Children that I love, and probably won't ever review for this channel because it's Married with Children. But I had a blast with this. Archie's Weird Mysteries was mostly pretty good. I enjoyed it. It wasn't like super offensive aside from my obnoxious irritation, my absolute deep-rooted annoyance with shrinking person stories, and then having the opposite with the 50-foot woman story for Veronica. But it has some good stuff. Some really good stuff. And again, if you haven't seen the killer potato storyline, the couch potato storyline, or the vampire stories, check those out. Check out the awesome mummy story or the Christmas episode. All of that stuff was really cool. I liked it. By the way, little factoid, the Christmas episode and the Halloween vampire storylines all premiered in February. Why? Why do you do this, Hollywood? That shows how much they actually cared about this show. Anyway, Archie's Weird Mysteries, if I had to rate it on a 5-star basis, I would probably give it a decent 3 out of 5 stars. Anthology shows are always so wish-washy. Very rarely do you have one that has the majority of the episodes being great or good even, or not obnoxious. This is no different from that. This is kind of half and half, just like Goosebumps is, just like Scooby-Doo can be. At least not old Scooby-Doo. Newer Scooby-Doo absolutely is, especially from the 80s onward. But Archie's Weird Mysteries, let me know what you thought about the show if you ever saw it growing up. If you're a little bit older than me, you probably saw it on TV. I never saw this on TV. And again, everybody I've ever talked to in my life, my friends growing up when I showed them the VHS tape, no one had ever heard of this show. They had heard of Archie comics, but had never seen this or heard of it. And that was kind of strange to me, you know, now when I see nobody talk about the show. Because it's not bad at all. It's pretty decent for what it is. But anyway, with all that being said, what do you think about the review? What do you think about the show? Let me know your thoughts on what you would rate this movie, show, whatever, down in the comment section down below. Is it your favorite Archie thing ever? Did you like Riverdale? Be honest. Be honest. I will know if you're being honest. Anyway, thank you guys. God bless you all. Hope you had a great, happy Halloween. I'm sorry I didn't have any videos out for you. There's some other stuff I might cover here soon. I saw all of the Halloween Town movies. The first 3 for the first time in a long time. 2 and 3 for the first time since I was very, very young, like when they came out. And 4 I saw for the first time. If you want reviews for those, since they're more of children's movies from Disney, let me know what your thoughts are on that in the comments section too. I plan on reviewing them, but it's kind of past Halloween at this point, but I also kind of never want to watch the other sequels again, ever. That's just between me and you, for the people who stuck around for this kind of post-credit scene of this video. But I have other stuff I want to talk about with you guys too, but I'm kind of taking my time, you know? God bless you guys. Happy Halloween once again, after like 3 weeks. God bless you. Goodbye.